Ladies and gentlemen, folks of all flavors, welcome to another edition of Unexpected Results, the Eternal Podcast. Joining me, I am the Platypus King, but how would you not know that? Joining me, as always, is the Mantid Man. How you doing today, Mantid Man?
It is safe to say that I am glorious. Other than that, I'm good. It's been a fun week, and I've been looking forward to the show all week. Got some cool stuff to talk about, and as you can tell, I have a little bit more stuff done. I got a dresser built right here, and soon I'll have an office instead of doing this in the bedroom to get away from the children.
That's good. Well, yeah, I'm glad that you're finally getting unpacked and settled in up there in the old rainy city.
That's right. Yeah, it has been good. It is a lot different. Like, I knew it was going to be different than Georgia, but is a lot. It's a lot different. Like, it's not 1,000 degrees up here. I don't sweat immediately when I walk outside. There's a third of the bugs. It's insane.
Yeah, dude, the lack of humidity is probably very different for you, but upgrade. I mean, come here in a couple months or so, you'll be getting wet as soon as you walk outside in a different way. You'll have a little trade-off.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyways, let's look at the ETS results this week. What was this, week 3? Man, it feels like the ETS has been going forever already, but it's just because they took those 2 weeks off. It feels like we're so far behind. But anyways,
yeah, this was what, season 3, week 3, right? We got a few weeks left until the end of the season.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, we got a few weeks to go. I think like 7 or something. I think it's just 10, right? So yeah, so it looks like
I don't ever remember.
The winner of the tournament is the person that gave me my first loss, if I recall correctly. That is Tabu with Rakano Valkyries. And in second place, we have Praxis Tokens by Robot Dinosaur. Ikaria Blue by Drolachek. Like a Nightfall Berserk Feln deck by Dr. Pringles. Xenon Killers by, I always say this is level 13 David. I don't think that's what that is, but and TJP Miracle Blitz, the old Alessi deck that won last week by The Rock, our good old friend from the stream. We got another Praxis Tokens deck by I Am Monstrum, and a Moment of Creation deck featuring Worm Calling by Dark Hands. I know about 5 of these players, not all of them, so that's congratulations. I feel like a few of these players, this is their first top 8, so that's awesome.
Yeah, they were. These are some fantastic decks. I mean, I expected to see. Well, let me step back a little bit. I am not surprised to see Miracle Blitz in the top 8. There was a lot of them in the tournament itself, but yeah, obviously these players, either The Rock played Miracle Blitz really well and got lucky with pairings, a little bit of both. And everybody else obviously took the Miracle Blitz threat to heart and kind of built around it and prepped for it. Tabu from Eternal Titans, that deck was sick, man. I watched that match with you live. I watched the final. That was a very cool deck.
Yeah, I mean, it has that wonderful synergy that we have seen pop up since Set 4 came out with the old Bullet Shaper Privilege of Rank, and that's a pretty powerful combination of cards to have together.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's it's very close in the base shell to the Big Rockin' Bracers deck. You know, it obviously gets rid of the Copper Hall Bracers and pretty much all the weapons except for the Rune Hammer, but it comes in and it has like every version of Ikaria, and Into the Story, which is a cool card, it's a one of in this deck, but it is it rounds out that kind of harsh rule suite, especially since it bypasses Aegis, and there was a lot of that the protected flyers or protected like sheriffs and stuff just in general are all over the place.
Yeah, Tobu here was playing 4 board wipes in the main with a Singleton Harshrule in the market. I like that he chose to go with that split of 3 Harshrule, 1 Into the Story in the main deck, and having Into the Story be in the main instead of in the market, because you actually get the warp value every now and again. And you still have access to that 5th Harshrule,
right.
The 4th Harshrule, in the market. It's like you have a million Harshrules thanks to all the merchants. So, yeah, that's pretty excellent.
Yeah. And, it just goes to show, like, a lot of people, our article actually on Team Rankstar talks about Rakano being a great stepping stone for new players. It's a solid deck right out of the tutorial, and the cards are not terribly difficult to get. Got a little tongue tied there. But this one is obviously very expensive. It plays a booty load of legendaries, some of which can only be got through the story, like through the campaigns. And pretty much everything that's not a legendary is a rare. Like, there's a couple of uncommons and commons outside of power, but I mean, it's an expensive deck.
Yes, it is. 65,100 Shiftstone for this build. Yeah, this was a good deck. When I was playing against this player, it was rough because he'd have like Bullet Shapers and Valkyrie Enforcers early, maybe a Whirling Duo, and I was just like waiting for him to jam his Ikaria or an Emily or a Rizon or something off of the Bullet Shaper early, and he never ended up activating his Bullet Shaper in either game that we played. And I'm like, well, I have this removal that I need for that threat specifically, or I'm dead. I just mismanaged my resources because I probably needed to kill some of his other stuff sooner than I did, and because of that, boom, Ikaria comes down on actual turn 7 when he actually got to 7 power, and then I died. Too late.
Yep. But yeah, so Tabu and Eternal Titans. Great deck there. Eternal Titans had another player. We're going to say level 13 David, like you said. Not sure that's correct, but also a very interesting deck. Not a deck that I expected to see. The Valkyries, I mean, a strong suite, so you kind of expect it to show up. Zen Killers has been getting...
I was just going to say, very proactive mid-range list, the Valkyrie Killers deck. And Rizan has shown that it's a very powerful card.
Yeah, for sure. And Zen Killers, which is what David played, also a great deck, but has not been very popular on like Eternal Warcry or really in the discussion stuff too much. So it's good to see Zen stuff show up a bit more. The running theme, obviously, for most of the decks is still splashing time or running time. There's a lot of like Praxis combinations and stuff that were in top 8 that made like really close to top 8 because Praxis just became the same thing you and other personalities in the Eternal community have talked about. Like, yes, Praxis tokens is a coin flip, but it's a coin flip that is probably a little bit more in your favor. Like, if you get the combinations of cards, you just win. And if you don't, you still can win if you play correctly.
Yeah, Praxis tokens is a very strong archetype, and I mean, you've seen me bring it on multiple different occasions on tournaments that I thought really mattered, and those for me, like I brought that to the Invitational and stuff, and yeah, like very very strong archetype. The Zen Killers list, yeah, I wasn't surprised to see that show up either, because that's a pretty decent answer to the TJP deck that's been going around. You got deadly units, you got the killer cards, you get to flash in Scorpion Wasp, ambush in, and just get good suite of removal, good suite of threats. You got Teacher of Humility to punish any control players, or even just punish people for playing with markets. So
absolutely. So I had a question for you, because one of the decks on here was I thought was very cool, and I think it has been almost a unanimous decision that this influence combination is like, oh, it's so garbage. But Dr. Pringle's Nightfall Berserk deck in the Primal Shadow colors found, doesn't have a lot of the other pieces that like the Berserk decks get, but playing like Midnight Gale and Rendra with them getting Berserk, like that's the thing, man. It was fun to watch. It was fun to watch some of the games with him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this list is very close to, if not identical to, the list that Notorious GHP, I believe he made a video set with it for TeamRankstar.com. If not, he at least gave it to me in private, and a couple of times that I've taken this list to the ladder, I've tore it up. I really like this archetype. Actually, the Larry's Casual Tuesday tournament last week, she did a conquest tournament, a non-legendary conquest tournament, so you couldn't play legendary cards, and one of the decks I brought was a modification of this list. Instead of having any Midnight Gales, I just had all the Avasaurs, and then, instead of Rendras, I had all, Impending Dooms, And, yeah, I really like this deck. This was a deck that I was also considering if I wanted to play like a, low to the ground, kill you, aggro-y type of deck. This was the deck that I was considering bringing to the tournament.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I just like the fact that that Twilight Raptor is in the deck. Like, it meets all of the requirements to be a good card, but you don't see it nearly as much as you should. And I get it. It's an uncommon card. Like, it's not anything super special, but I mean, it's a 1/2/2, baby.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get that. It's hard to get the double influence consistently on turn one and non-depleted. Like, same reason you don't see Fearless Nomad very often.
Yeah, it is definitely difficult to get, but it fills in that gap. If you have one extra power at some point down the road, you can play him out. It's another threat to put on the board. It flies, like, it does everything it needs to do. So I'm happy to see some more extraneous cards get some love.
Yeah, and unlike Fearless Nomad, Twilight Raptor scales better into the late game just by having flying,
Yep, except against Valkyries, because Valkyries also fly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any, just going back through.
I
love I love I Am Monstrum's deck name. Magikarp is my inspiration in life. I think many players in the community feel that way. Magikarp, obviously, if you're not a frequenter to the stream, he's a friend of the stream. He's a great streamer as well. So I Am Monstrum getting the shout out there. I don't know if it's a jab at or an homage to. Either way, totally behind it.
Yeah. Also, between the two Praxis token lists that made top 8, I like how the big difference between the two of them is one has a fire market and one has a time market. So
yeah,
a fire market has Purify, Rally, Jawbone Greatsword, Obliterate, and Flamestoker. Meanwhile, the time market, which made it to the finals, had Sandstorm Scarf, Vault of the Praxis, Athena Obelisk, Talir's Choice, and Passage of Eons. And I can see the draw to either one. Like, Rally's a powerful card. Flamestoker, really good in certain matchups. But I think the time market is better, because one of the things that Praxis tokens can struggle against sometimes is flyers. And having that Sandstorm Scarf in the market and being able to just go grab it is fine. And this player did also want access to a Rally in the market, and that's why they chose the more expensive Talir's Choice. But hey, it's a multi-faction card, and you can actually go grab it, and it does that same ability. It's an extra 2 damage. But...
well, and you get one of the coolest cards that was straight terrible before markets were introduced, which is one of the reasons that I praised markets so much early on, is you get cards that were really bad before because they just took up space 90% of the time. Well, now you don't have to worry about them unless you want them. But Passage of Eons was a trash card in the past. Let's be honest here. But with the advent of markets, Passage of Eons is incredible, especially if you are in the mirror match with this deck, because your opponent plays their obelisk, they're buffing guys, all this kind of stuff, and you're like, oh, well, you know what I can do? Boom, everything is silent. You have no artifacts. Your scarf is gone. Your vault may be gone. Your Zenon Obelisk is gone. Shoot, maybe I got rid of a Flamestoker. Who knows? But it is a great card.
Yeah, I'm going to give credit to Ether Llama for popularizing Passage of Eons in the markets. Now, I don't know if that's actually true, but it feels like every list that he sends me or that I find of his that has time in it has Passage of Eons in the market. So that card now makes me think of Ether Llama. But
absolutely. And I'm still, so I like Robot Dinosaur's list. Obviously, it won. It's a great list. And Praxis, we talked about last week, I'm a big fan of.
Robot Dinosaur did not win.
Oh, sorry.
Second place.
What? Yeah, second place. That's what I meant. He made it to the final. I apologize. Made it to the final. Great list. But Arcana Monitor, I cannot make up my mind on this card. Like, sometimes I see it and I see it do great things, or sometimes I play it and it does great things, and sometimes I watch it or I play it and it is just terrible and I wish it wasn't in my deck. So make up my mind for me. Tell me that Arcana Monitor is good, or tell me that it is bad.
It can be good, it can be bad.
I hate you so much sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, the card has its ups and downs. It's kind of swingy. I mean, yeah, I feel like more often than not, you just don't want to play. I think 3 copies might be too many, but it's a fine card to play. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'd rather just be playing with Sandstorm Titans in my deck as well, just to have more powerful stuff going on. But, I wasn't positive. I mean, my prediction was that this card would make it into Praxis tokens, but I wasn't positive. Teacher of Humility. I know, it's a given that you should just put it into any time deck if you can, really. But I wasn't positive that people would put it in there. But here it is, and that's good. The right thing to do. I have a Passage of Eon story, though.
Oh, let's hear it, man, and then we'll jump to some other fun stuff.
Yeah, not to put anyone on blast here. And I don't mean to make fun of this person that I'm about to talk about, or anything like that, but nothing good ever gets said after a preface like that. So I was playing, I don't know, some deck on stream this week, and I ended up playing a Passage of Eons a couple times. I had it in the market, and I played it, and it was like, I had a turn where it was like really good, and one of my viewers was telling me a story about watching a different streamer, ManUS, and that card got played against him out of somebody's market, and apparently he just he got upset. He got upset and started yelling about how bad that card is, kind of like how I do when I get frogged. Except usually now when I get frogged, it's out of the market, and when it's not, I still get mad. But that was it. Passage of Eons. And it plays into the whole thing that you were talking about, how cards used to be bad, so some players even still think of those cards as bad, when they, in truth be told, are not bad anymore, because you get to play it in the market, not your main deck. You don't have to put 4 copies of Passage of Eons in your main deck to hit it, in case it's relevant. You have it in the market for when you need it. You'll have it.
Absolutely. So it's, we have a lot of good decks, obviously, in the tournament as a whole. Congratulations to the top 8, and obviously congratulations to the winner, again, Tobu. Great deck, everybody. Great deck, a lot of fun stuff. I want to talk about another great deck, though, and it has nothing to do with tournaments. And it is from another friend of the stream, friend of the community, places a lot in tournaments, but he decided to work on something that has literally zero to do with the competitive scene outside of making money so you can play in your drafts and in your your chapter events and things like that. And that is Second Blue's 70-0 Gauntlet Masters Life Force Gold Farming deck. And the reason I say the whole title instead of just saying, it's a Zen and Life Force deck with Katra and some other cool stuff, it's because the title of the deck, 70-0 Gauntlet Masters Life Force Gold Farming deck, is not an overstatement. It is a simplification of how ridiculously good this deck is without exploiting anything in the AI or whatever. If it exploits anything, it exploits the design of Gauntlet, because this deck just brutalizes every deck and every boss that Gauntlet can throw at you.
Yeah, that's a clickbaity deck name. It's a clickbaity title if I've ever seen one. Yeah, no, I tried the deck out after you sent it to me, because you were like, hey, let's talk about this deck on the podcast. I'm like, oh, all right. So I went and played it against the AI, and yeah, easy 7-0. Easy 7-0 of my life. Didn't even break a sweat.
it's easy enough. One, I don't think it's a clickbaity title if it's accurate. Like when I think of clickbait, I think of like well, Platypus is going to talk about his 10 most favorite things you're never going to believe. Number 6. Well, number 6 is wrestling. Holy crap. Who would have known? Like, you will believe it. No, this deck is, one, it is not terribly expensive. Like, Sandstorm Titans and Eye on the Abductors. Everything else is, like, rare or common and uncommon. And you don't need some of the pieces. Really, like, Katra and, like the merchant is probably what you need. Like it is so simple that I sat my son down yesterday and was teaching him how to play Eternal a little bit. He's 4 years old for reference sake. So he can't read yet, but he knows like what the pictures look like and he has a really good memory. So he can go like 2 wins, 3 wins, sometimes 4 wins with this deck. It is that easy to play because all you have to do is, now he doesn't understand markets and stuff like that. He just understands the numbers and the colors, and it has to match so he can play stuff. All you have to do is get Katra down, really, and it is about it. Between Katra and the Zenin Life Speaker, it is incredible what this deck can accomplish.
I don't think I got anything out of my market other than Katra. The AI, not even once.
A couple times I grabbed like the Infinite Hourglass just so I could get some attacks in, but it's not even required because and it's not even required because you can just camp when you get my favorite combo of the deck, and that is when you get a Katra on board and you have an Auric Interrogator that has either been blessed by the Zenin Life Speaker or that you get the Lethari Falchion on, and it's just pinging you, healing you with the damage that it deals, and buffing itself and everybody around it. Because then you just sit back and you wait, and everything gets huge on your side of the board.
I never got that lucky. I didn't even think about giving Auric Interrogator, getting him lifelink, and then that whole thing happening. That's spicy. Now I want to go play the deck again just to see that happen.
Yeah, it is. It is the one thing that is probably exploitative of the AI that the AI, we're going to talk a little meta here, but the AI will not favor attacks that it gains nothing on. So you can stall out every game. And this deck is essentially built to be able to do that. So if you have a 5/5 on board and they have, a 5/6 on board or something like that, like it just won't attack. Even if it wipes your guy out, most of the time it won't go in. I don't know what all the algorithms are. I'm not a programmer, but this deck exploits the fact that the AI will let you build a board state. And as long as you don't get hit by a board wipe, which is very uncommon in Gauntlet, you are in ridiculously good shape.
Yes, I agreed. The boss that I got when I played, I found really funny, was the Forever Nighttime person. And yes, I did draw my Lunar Magus.
Yeah.
It's only 2 copies, fantastic. But I drew it. That was pretty free. That was a pretty free win.
Yeah. And I think, just talking after playing, so I played myself between yesterday and today, just like watching movies and doing work. I played probably 30, 35 games, something like that, and lost 1 or 2. Just not paying attention, being stupid, something to that effect. And I would say the one thing that you could change as a newer player, Eye on the Abductor is a good card, but I don't know if you actually need it. Like I found, in all the games that I played, I found that he rarely was a factor in getting something done. About the only thing that he brings to the table is being able to ambush and have lifesteal innately. So if you have like a catcher on the field, he protects against a killer or something like that. But other than that, he is not anything super spectacular, and you could probably get around using him, which reduces the cost of the deck significantly for you newer players that want to go out and farm some cash money.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if you're missing the legendaries, specifically Iron, you can definitely just do that. Yeah, just replace it with any unit with lifesteal probably. I mean, even Sandstorm Titan, if you don't have it, hey, there's not. It's one of the safest legendaries you can possibly craft. But if you don't have it, you don't feel like crafting it, yeah, just replace it with something else, man. Just put in two more devoted Theurges
or something. Yeah, that would be good. 2 more Theurges because they're great. They ping and heal they heal you and boost Catra even more. That's a great call, actually.
Yeah, and replace the one that's in the market with the scarf. So boom, problem solved, and that'll bring the Shiftstone cost down by like what 20,000 or more. So like,
oh yeah, easily.
Yeah, definitely a good farming deck for the Gauntlet. Absolutely, 1 out of 1.
1 out of 1. Best current farming deck, and I love Zenin and Gauntlet anyway. I've been playing it since I first started because Life Force is so fun, and I like the card. I like Catra. I wish she was playable and constructed.
Yep, I wish this archetype or even this deck specifically was playable.
All right. Well, this past week obviously was I don't know what's going on with Platypus, but he's dying over there. This past week was what we thought it was going to be. It was our kind of mid chapter lore and hero card. Why don't you walk us through after you recover? Why don't you walk us through Wyatt? Let's talk about the card itself.
Yeah, we got Wyatt, Junk Collector. Now, I did not ever in a million years expect to see the character from Smuggler's Stash get its own card. Never, ever, ever. And makes me happy because those who don't know, am a fan of the archetype Armory. And back in the day, when it was only set 1, Smuggler's Stash, A, cost 5, and B, was 2 of in my list at all times. It's just like a great grindy card. So, because of that, I already like this card just because it's that character. On top of that, I like his haircut because it's stupid. It looks like Heihachi, but from Tekken or something. But
yeah, that's the first thing I thought of as well, because it does not look like that in Smuggler's Stash, but in the avatar and on the card, it is definitely like, I'm a crazy old man haircut.
Well, it looks like that in Smuggler's Stash. It's just not as pronounced or obvious because his head's a little bit in the shadows. But let's talk about this card. So yeah, we got a 2-cost, 2/2 Stone Scar influence requirement. Gunslinger rogue named Wyatt Junk Collector has quick draw. When Wyatt hits the enemy player, and this is not a may, you have to do it if it connects. Discard a card from your hand to draw the top card of their deck. After every 3 hits, create and draw a Smuggler's Stash. I've only got 1 Smuggler's Stash so far. Today was the first day that I played with the card at all. And I had the most success. I only played like 3 different decks with the card. But Gunslinger Aggro was the main. That was the most successful list. The last match I even played on stream today was against RNG Eternal as himself, and it was a mirror match. He had started the game with 3 torches, and I wanted to cry.
Yeah, I watched that game as we were getting ready for the podcast, and it was heartbreaking, if nothing else.
And I know for a fact he relished in that victory so hard.
Oh, for sure. It's clipped, it's saved, it's on his hard drive.
Yeah. Here's the card up on the video stream. But yeah, have you played with this card at all?
Live watchers or anybody checking out on YouTube? I did play with it some early this morning, so I get up. I got no problem expressing my ridiculous amount of nerditude. So I get up at 5 a.m. my time on the Pacific Coast. I get up at 5 a.m. on Sundays to play Dungeons and Dragons, and there is a point in there where we take about a 30-minute break. I play online with people all over the world. There's a place in there where we take like a 30-minute break so people can get food, go to the bathroom. So I just sat and drank my coffee and played a bunch of games with Wyatt in a deck very similar to what you were playing. I actually went back in the archives and grabbed some of the other like just gunslinger decks, hideout pistol like you're playing, and some other things like that. And he is fun, and he will possibly find a niche. Like being a gunslinger rogue with quick draw at 2 is a solid position to be in. His power is kind of the questionable thing. Like there are some points when you only have 1 or 2 cards in hand and you want to be able to knock off some other points off of your opponent, but you're scared to do it because you don't want to lose the cards in your hand. and you don't know what you're going to get from your opponent. So there's some interesting scenarios. I like him. I like the idea behind the card, the development. I'll be interested to see what other kind of cool stuff they come up with for heroes. While I wouldn't rate Wyatt terribly, I wouldn't rate him poorly. We work on that 1 to 0 scale on Platypus Island, and I'd probably put him at a 0, unfortunately.
1 out of 1, best junk collector ever.
Well, let's talk about him as a junk collector really quick.
I actually read this lore.
Man.
I actually read the lore for this character too.
Nice. Well, we'll get there. Let's talk about the avatar. Literally the best avatar in Eternal right now. Better than the twin-headed dragon. I can't remember its name right now.
Mallet and Nakova.
Mallet and Nakova. Yes. So better than Mallet and Nakova. Better than Jack. Better than all of the avatars, and better than the Bae herself, Ikaria, is Wyatt the Junk Collector.
Yeah, dude. This will be an avatar that I will be coming back to time and time again. Even, down the road when I'm sure we'll get some more cool ones down the road next month and month after, whatever. I don't care. This one is definitely going to remain in my top 3 for the foreseeable future. Currently, yeah, obviously number 1, but he will be in my top 10 for a long time, top 3 for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even like the art is great. First of all, the art on this card harkens back to the discussion we had last week about the art just getting stepped up in the game, because the art's very cool. It's kind of dark. Wyatt's, he's got his crazy eye on you, and he's kind of like leaned over with his gun in his hand, like, yeah, I'm looking for my boot. Don't come near my shop unless you're going to trade me something. But the wing, like the flare on the avatar is fantastic. It's got like the banged up metal and the dust and stuff. But the best part of the avatar is the custom speech emote that he has got when you click the little face above it. And it says, "That ain't garbage. It's glorious." And anybody who hangs out on the stream knows that one of my favorite songs to request on Platypus' stream is Glorious Domination, which is Bobby Roode's entrance from the WWE. And like 45% of the song is just glorious.
Yes. As soon as I saw this, emote, I was like, man, where's Manton, man? Why isn't he here on my stream? And you had some stuff going on. You actually weren't there that day or the next day. Maybe you got there towards the end of the next day. But it's like, man, where have you been? I've been waiting to show you this emote. I don't know if you've seen it yet. It's you. I mean, this is what Yottabyte thinks you look like anyway. So,
hey, I'm heavily contemplating. So, like Direwolf's gonna be at Emerald City Comic Con. And really? I think they're going to have a presence at Dragon. Yeah. So I think they'll have a presence at Dragon Con, which is the same weekend. I'm going to Dragon Con, just because it is long-standing tradition. I've gone for like the last 15 years. So I will continue to go. So one, Direwolf or Eternal Team, if you want somebody to wear a shirt or to represent your company, this guy is going to be there. I'm already flying. You don't have to pay for anything. But two, next year, like maybe 2 months, I may grow my hair out and like chalk it up and like on my face, and I like get a wig or something weird, and I might go as Wyatt unless we get something better.
Nice. Yeah, you should definitely cosplay as this character. I mean, you're so old, it'll just be fitting.
I hate it. But Yada would then be correct, because then he could just like overlay my picture in the avatar and be like, look, it is Manton Man. He's a crazy person who talks about random things, and he says glorious way too often.
The best part is you're like 1 or 2 years old. You're just a year or two older than me, you know? I think Yottabyte's around my age too. I have no idea. Anyways, yeah, it's fun. He likes to pick on you.
Hey, I can take it. But let's talk about the lore. Since you read it, I'm going to let you take the lead on this, because it is, while it doesn't bring a ton of substance on the surface to the game, it is hilarious, if nothing else.
Here's the deal. This character and the lore of this character reminds me, there's this movie that came out last year that I don't think anybody saw. It had a very, very limited run in the theaters. It was called The Bad Batch, and it stars what's his name that played Khal Drogo or whatever in Game of Thrones? He's Aquaman.
I can't remember his name either, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, why can't I remember his name? Google it for me. Anyways,
Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa.
There he is. Yeah, so he's in a movie with Jim Carrey. It's called The Bad Batch, and there's a scene. So Jim Carrey's character basically plays a junk collector who looks a little crazy and wild out, just like this guy, Wyatt. And they have this whole exchange. Jim Carrey's character doesn't talk, though, so there's a difference. But just look up that scene and tell me that Jim Carrey performance does not remind you of this character, Wyatt. Yeah, I will. So here's the deal with the. You know what? You talk about Wyatt. You talk about the lore.
All right, I like the lore. So we're going to talk about the surface first, where there's not a lot, and then we'll talk about the actual implications of the lore, and then we'll move on to the last couple of things for the stream. So Wyatt is obviously what his name says. He is a junk collector. He does not think there is a such thing as garbage. Wyatt's a little crazy because we find out while reading through his stuff that Wyatt doesn't like money. Wyatt actually will yell at you or throw things at you or shoot at you if you bring him money and ask for stuff. Wyatt wants things in return. Wyatt wants things that you consider valuable. He wants trinkets and treasures. He's kind of like you. He collects little doodads and little thingamabobs. Yeah.
One of these exploded on my desk at some point. I didn't know it. I just discovered it today. Half creamer.
Yep, because you're the cream of the crop.
Yes.
But so Wyatt likes stuff, and Wyatt has a lucky boot that he must find, and that is essentially the point of this whole story. The theme here is that Wyatt is digging through this mountain of what other people would call garbage to find his lucky boot. Now, what we find out is in his pile of quote unquote garbage are things like, I don't know, a dragon's eye orb. Maybe the touch of the Umbran crown that can control someone's mind and wipes their thoughts and talks to Wyatt, which is something we'll come back to in a moment. But regardless, so he's digging through his stuff, and he is there is kind of this overarching theme that he collects literally everything that he can get his hands on. He has like a wormstone, which is a ridiculously strong artifact. He's got surgeon saws and worn shields, and he's got the Claw of the First Dragon, which is the legendary fist weapon that summons a bunch of one-cost units. So the guy has a plethora of things. An eclectic assortment is what the lore actually calls it. And he does not clean them. He doesn't really keep them in an organized fashion, but he treasures them. They are very important to him, and it's something that's kind of really cool to see that comes through in the storytelling. And he's crazy. I mean, he's looking for this boot. He refuses to do deals with an unnamed Minotaur about a hammer. I think he's talking about Tavrod. But he won't do it unless he's got his boots with him.
Are you familiar with the, we'll say, political figure Vermin Supreme?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't place it, so I'm going to say no.
I'm not going to talk about his politics at all, but he's this old white dude with a big white beard who wears a literal boot on his head. And he ran for president this last time. He didn't win. I don't know if you know this or not, but he is not our president right now. He wears a boot on his head.
That is amazing.
And I was waiting for that to happen. And I was like, I'm pretty sure they just saw a picture of Vermin Supreme and decided to turn him into an Eternal card. Obviously, that's not what happened, but...
Yep. Well, I thought for sure... Now, so I want there needs to be a relic or a weapon that comes out that is Wyatt's lucky boot. At some point in the game, it needs to exist, and it just needs to say like you pay one less for relics and weapons, or I don't know, but it needs to be in the game. There's a lot of flavor there that could be a lot of fun, and I'm a big fan of the lore. So let's talk a little bit about the subtle implications of this story that essentially, like 90% of it on the surface is very innocuous, outside of the crazy legendary items that this guy has just kind of floating around. The one, he does have the touch of the Umbran, this cursed crown, and it talks to him. So it says the following quote: "Find me, child. Follow the shadow." And Wyatt, one, just isn't phased. His response is, "Looky here, you just need to wait your turn like everyone else. Now hush," which is a little crazy considering an inanimate object is talking to him.
Another day in the life.
Yeah. Two, though, who is the child that the crown is searching for? I don't think it's Wyatt, because Wyatt is definitely an old man. I can only think of two people that it could be. One of them is probably the most likely. The second one is very obscure.
I know who it is.
Who is it?
Wyatt is the child. It says, "Find me, child." Find me, comma, child. The person talking to Wyatt is referring to Wyatt, referring to him as the child of this character, like this cultist or whoever.
Maybe. Legitimate theory, not one of the theories that I had. Maybe Wyatt has had it so long, I don't know. But I think somebody traded this to Wyatt. I think because Wyatt does have a bunch of legendary things, and somebody is mounting a campaign from the shadows, from the background, to do something, that they traded this crown after they broke its spell to get some other things that Wyatt's got. And I'll talk about that in a second. So my obscure theory is that it might be the child that we know is going to be near the Shadowlands going to Aurelia. And that is the kid from the previous market story that talked to the Aurelia merchant, was given a piece of the Waystone and told to go find Aurelia. So maybe it's him. Very obscure, very unlikely, probably not the case, but a man can dream. So the person that I actually think that this crown is reaching out towards is Vara. And that is strictly because the crown itself takes control. So Vara had kind of lost herself to the shadow. And I think Vara had this crown, either took it from the Shadowlands or took it from Azendale or something to that effect, and has traded it for its immense power to get something of incredible power from Wyatt to continue her campaign and likely take out her mom and get her throne. Or help her mom. I don't know what her actual plan is.
Neither do I.
The other stuff in there, and I know you don't like the lore stuff as much as I do, and I don't know if anybody else does that listens to podcasts, so I'll keep it brief. There's only a couple other things. One, the market lore from the last chapter focused only briefly but very strongly on pieces of the Waystones. And this one did it as well. Specifically, the gem in the crown is a shard of an amethyst Waystone, apparently. So that's twice now that we've had references to Waystone shards and how much power they have. Either somebody at Direwolf and the Eternal team just doesn't care, and they keep referencing these things for no reason, or it is it's a targeted description because there is something that's going to happen with the Waystones, because it's the second or third time in very recent history that they have referenced them.
Yeah, the next story adventure campaign clearly is probably going to be about the Waystones and Circe's search to find them.
There you go.
Gotta get Circe back in there.
And the other thing that is minor, and I might be reading into this one a little far, I'm kind of reaching on it, but when he kicks the dragon's eye off of the shelf, he says something very interesting. And it could be him being crazy, or it could have actual significance. But he says, "Tarnation, they're after me, and I can't have it." He says, kicking the shelf a large orange sphere, the dragon's eye rolls off, kicking up a plume of dust as it hits the floor with a dull thump. And he continues on to say, "Don't look at me like that. Gotta have the right tool for the right job, and this job needs a boot." So he tells the dragon's eye not to look at him, which means to me personally, possibly, that the Dragon's Eye is not obviously not actually an eye. It is a trinket, an artifact, but it is kind of like that orb from Lord of the Rings.
You are cutting out and turning into a robot. I think your internet is dying. Hey, we are back. It was my side. Team decided to start downloading an update for something.
Got to turn them automatic updates off. Well, I won't go back into it. Essentially, why it is crazy. I was just talking about the Dragon's Eye, and he says he tells it not to look at him. I probably read into it too far, but there may be something there.
Yeah, I mean, and you were referencing how it reminds you of the Eye of Sauron or from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. So
all
overall,
that nerdy good stuff.
Cool card. Yeah. Overall, cool card. Great avatar, or excuse me, great lore, phenomenal, glorious avatar.
Yeah, it's the best avatar for sure. For sure. And the card is cool. It's probably not a competitive card, but hey, not all cards have to be competitive. This is a fun card and a really cool character. So I'm into it.
Yep, absolutely. It furthers the story. It could see its day later. We've had other cards that have seemed a lot worse that are now very strong. So, hey, what are you gonna do?
Exactly. So, tell me, Manted Man, what's been going on in the world of Reddit this week?
So, not a ton. There's been a bunch of fun like meme posts and things like that. It's definitely been some interesting discussion, if nothing else. I learned something new. I did not know about the loss meme, so I learned about that. Like I'd seen it before, but I didn't realize that it was like a carried thing. Somebody made a loss meme about Jack. If you're not familiar, do what I did. Go to Know Your Meme and look it up. But it's decent. But the one I do really want to talk about is something that's been talked about a few times, and that is a post by Chew Boo Boo. Submitted about 4 days ago about the mulligan rule, and it's a contentious subject. It comes up a lot, but they had a decent idea that's actually been talked about a couple times in the past, and there's a couple of really good points. The baseline of his complaint with the mulligan system is not necessarily that the mulligan system is that bad. Some will say it is, somebody will say it isn't. That's not the point of contention here. The problem he's got with it is that it is designed oddly, and even if it's not bad, it's very exploitable. You exploited it heavily with a deck not too long ago that the Yeti, the Yeti Nightmare
combo deck, yeah,
like it seeks to exploit the way the mulligan system works, or in this case doesn't work. So his recommendation for quote unquote fixing the mulligan system is just pulling it up here so I get the wording correct. I'm just going to read his post. It's actually very short. I don't understand why the first hand drawn even allows for 1 or 5 plus power, since it's an auto mulligan for almost every deck. Instead, mulliganing into a 2 to 4 power, that makes your first hand have the mulligan draw 7 cards based on the power ratio of the deck instead. So essentially he's saying that if you can draw 1 or 5 or 6 power, you're either going to exploit it or you're going to ship it. Like, it doesn't make any sense to have that happen because it's a digital card game and blah, blah, blah. Instead, start it like we essentially get for our reroll. So this makes both hands viable instead of having the first hand be 100% luck. And 2, it reduces the viability of the 50-plus power card decks, since the mulligan is very likely to be useless. The current system allows these decks to luck out with the initial random hand or mulligan into a better hand with 3 to 5 non-power cards and exploit the system. He says he would prefer something like the Vancouver mulligan system, but he's pretty sure it'll never happen. And what it says is, quote, "This rule is fairly simple shift. If you don't like the opening hand of 7 cards, the Paris mulligan allowed players to shuffle up and draw again, but draw 1 fewer. This process could be repeated all the way down to 0 cards. The Vancouver mulligan is the same, but once both players have resolved mulligans and a player has settled on a hand of less than 7 cards, that player now gets to scout 1, correct? Yeah. Looking at the top card of the library, and if it's no good, shipping it to the bottom. And it has a link to the mulligan system, and you can read more about it. So first, let's hear what you have to say, and then I'll talk about some of the comments, one of them in particular.
Yeah, I would like the opening hand to be based on the power ratio of the deck. So the problem I see with that is, in this game, a deck that wants to play 32 power or whatever doesn't literally play 32 power. It plays, 26 or 27, maybe even 28 at most. And then, plays 4 Seek Power, plays a couple of Favors, plays, whatever else, Amber Acolytes, etc., 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 to be able to get to that artificial, thing, the artificial number. Or, it has the extra power in the market, It would be a little bit hard to accurately base your opening hand's power ratio that your deck wants because of how decks are built in this game. But I would be okay with some kind of tweak like this for sure. It would definitely improve the game for me.
So, I agree, and a lot of other people agree, but there is the top comment and response to that comment are what I want to focus on here. And it's going to be a little counter to how I normally speak. So if you came here for super positive Manted and very community-oriented Manted, plug your ears or something. Because I'm going to talk a little negative here, but it's for a good cause. So there was a response that essentially said, it's been discussed several times, you're going to get downvoted and have the drone of people saying that this is a terrible idea, and after being around 3 years, I'm now more convinced. Blah, 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 blah. They say like a bunch of bad things that I don't necessarily agree with. But their first point is very valid. It has been discussed several times. It is a problem to a lot of the influential players. It's a problem for a lot of new players. I've heard it from people that I've invited to the game. I get frustrated with it. So I think it is a problem. I personally don't know how to fix it. I could make recommendations. But the responder is also not wrong when they come back and they say that you're going to get downvoted when you bring it up. It is a very taboo subject, like a lot of subjects are. More specifically, if people complain about the game, a lot of the community members come in and just like crush it. You get downvoted if you're on Reddit. You get ignored if you're on Twitter. You get drowned out if you're on Discord and you say something. It just doesn't get a lot of light. And I understand the logic. You want to support the game. You want to support the developers. You want to be positive because you want good. You want to be the change that you want to see in the world. You want to be that good guy. And I understand that. I back that mentality 95% of the time because it's a good mentality to have. Support the people that are making this game that we love. I talk about that all the time. But as my father taught me, sometimes the correct support that somebody needs is to get yelled at, to get smacked, something to that effect. And I'm not saying my dad ever smacked me, but I digress. Sometimes negative reinforcement is the most positive reinforcement that you can get. And a very vocal player from the community, one who has been in trouble for speaking out in the past or things like that, did respond to that. You'll get downvoted a bunch, and it's been discussed. And he makes a very good point, and it's not. I don't disagree with it. And it says, I don't disagree with it, but I wouldn't use this kind of wording. So the first sentence is all I'm really going to read. He's responding to specifically the comment of you will get downvoted, and this is the problem that I also have. His response is, and it's those people, the downvoters, who believe that they are Direwolf Digital's staunchest supporters, and they are the ones who are killing the game. Now, I don't think they're killing the game, but the point he's trying to make here with the rest of his post is that if nothing is wrong, if you continue to downvote negative posts and you don't ever have criticism, the game can't get better. Things that are actually broken can't get fixed. Things like, things like Valkyrie Enforcer, things like Teacher, things like Sandstorm Titan that have been complained about in the past. These cards, these kinds of things are rarely bad for a game. Those 3 examples are not bad for the game at all, in my opinion. Again, subjective. What are you going to do? But things like mechanical or system problems, my issue with the iOS, for instance, probably the mulligan system. And I'm sure there's other problems. Those kind of things can be problems. Those kind of things can crush a game. They can demoralize the community, and they can keep a game from really taking off. And if you want the game to take off like I do, like Platypus King does, like many of the other people in the community do, you will not only not downvote these kind of posts, you will support them. You are allowed to have a negative approach to something. You're allowed to say, hey, you messed this up, you need to fix it, and other people will agree with you. And if there is an agreement, Direwolf has done this in the past as well, they will go back, they will reevaluate, and they will do one of 2 things. They will either fix the problem, and it may not be a fix that you like, but they will try to fix it, or they will send out a dev or a community representative or something, and they will tell you why they won't. They will at least give us the logic behind it. But as these posts get downvoted and as these quote-unquote dissenting opinions get drowned out, Direwolf doesn't think it's a problem. So they don't acknowledge it. They don't try and rectify it. They do nothing. And that doesn't help anybody. If we're all loud and we all say it's a problem, the worst thing Direwolf can do at that point is probably ignore us. And I don't think that would happen. The actual worst response we could get is, y'all are morons. This is why it's this way. And here's why we're not going to fix it, because these are the problems with the things that you have recommended. And I would actually be okay with that. And I think a lot of these other players that are outspoken, while they would complain still, which is fine, I think they would also accept an answer rather than silence. And Direwolf doesn't have the opportunity to respond if there isn't silence, or if there is silence and stuff is suppressed. So I'm happy. That's a very long-winded explanation of saying I'm happy that this post stayed so high in Reddit this week.
I think my biggest problem with, I don't think this guy's solution, though, to their suggestion for fixing the mulligan is really going to fix the mulligan, actually, because the problem that I have with it is that I am forced to keep a bad hand after I redraw my hand. A hand that I can look at and already know I have lost the game. This hand is unkeepable. I would rather go with that, the Paris mulligan or whatever as they call it in there, about where I can get a new hand, -1 card, or something. At the very least, do one of the things that other games let you do, and that's like, well, I don't want to I'm going to replace these 3 cards or something. There needs to be something better than forcing me to keep a hand that is unplayable after I redraw.
Sure.
Something. I don't know what the fix is, though. I don't know what the fix is.
Like I said, I'm not a designer. I don't either. Some people say that you could you could lean back on the fact that this is a digital collectible card game, a CCG, as it is referred to. And the mulligan right now, if you mulligan, you get a hand that is guaranteed to have at least 2, but no more than 4 power, correct?
Yes.
So some people are saying that your opening hand should also have that option. Like, that may be good. Power is what a lot of people complain about. You're not necessarily complaining about power. You're just complaining about garbage hands, and you would like to be able to go back and fix that. This is another rarity for me. I disagree with you. I do not have a problem with a true RNG system having a bad return sometimes. That's the nature of the card games. I understand the Paris system. I understand why it was put in place, that if you want to go down to 3 cards, but it's 1 power, a 1 drop, and a 2 drop, like you want to take that chance, that's fine. I don't personally think that's the right answer. You might not think my answers are right, but I don't necessarily think you should be able to build and tweak and stuff until you have a hand that you like, because I think it takes part of the draw for CCGs is that little bit of gamble. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. You can't set up the opening. You might be able to set up the later parts of the game, but again, that's my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what any of the stuff that I was saying would be the best way to go about it. I just know that when I look at my opening hand, and I have 2 fire sigils and a bunch of shadow cards, and I hit redraw, and I get 2 shadow sigils and a bunch of fire cards, I want to concede right then and there because I'm not going to win. But
yeah,
I agree. Those types of hands are so tilting. They're so tilting. It's so tilting. That's it. Yeah. Which is fine. I am fine. I want it to be all RNG, everything, all that stuff. I agree with what you said. Your rebuttal there. I feel like there's a better way to mitigate the RNG than what they are currently doing. What that is, I don't know.
I agree with that. I do. I'll make it very clear. I get long-winded sometimes, especially when I'm passionate about something. I'm very passionate about this game. I love it. I was like 90% of the community. I'm a fan of all the community, the good, the bad, everything in between. The short version of what I'm saying is I agree. There is a problem. I don't necessarily think it's power screw or anything like that. I agree there's a problem, and I think it needs to be addressed. So if my voice means anything, that's it right there. So I'm not afraid to say that. Direwolf Digital, I love you for everything that you've done. You gave us spoilers. You've reached out to me a few times and said you enjoyed things. You retweet my tweets. But I do think there is a problem with the opening hand / mulligan system, and I think it needs to be addressed, or at least tell me why it doesn't need to be addressed, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, that's fair. I would settle for everything that you just said as well. We had some other exciting things happen this week in the whole Twitch Eternal realm of things, and that's Luis Scott Vargas did a test run for Twitch drops, which, to be honest, I didn't even know that this was a possible thing until this week. Started playing another game, and it had those, if you're watching a stream, you have a chance to get, pack of cards or whatever, a loot drop, for in-game content just by watching that stream of somebody playing that game. And I did not realize, I think there's a lot of games that have been doing this for at least a year or so. I didn't know that was a thing that could happen. And so I thought it was ironic that the first week that I knew about it, one of the devs for this game does a test stream with Twitch drops, where just by watching his stream, you were able to get a booster pack, or I ended up getting a pack of Empty Throne and a rare Champion of Fury. I saw a lot of people talking in the chat about getting like premium scouting parties and stuff like that. I wasn't as lucky, but I got 2 drops during his 2-hour stream testing out that system. It's very exciting. I really want this system to go live.
Oh, I agree. I can't wait. One, I can't wait for you and for the other streamers to have access to it. I think it'll be great, especially as the game gets released and our audience and participation and the community just explodes. But 2, and I love the I love the little subtleties that are mixed in. 1, this announcement's huge. I think it's great. Waystone overlay plus Twitch drops, big thing for the community. But the small thing that is in there is there was a 30-second little interlude where LSV was talking to the Twitch viewers, and he said the following, which is very exciting. Somebody asked him if he was going to stream more Eternal, and he said, yeah, probably, because, and this is the golden part, because we have this set up at the office now, so you'll probably see a lot more dev streams. Oh my god, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, when he went live the other day, I saw the Twitter post that he was going to go live, and I retweeted, and I was like, hey, it's fine if you stop watching me to go watch this. This is important, or this is neat. I wanted to just turn off my stream and go watch myself. I actually went AFK for a minute and said I was going to use the restroom or something. I really just went and got on my phone for 10 minutes and watched LSV sitting in a comfortable chair, not this pile of junk. So anytime that LSV or any of the devs, really, it was cool seeing Matt Nass and BK and whatnot stream it a couple weeks ago too. But yeah, anytime seeing these devs play the game, we already like the devs that they're going to put on the stream. We already like these people, and we already want to see those people play this game because they have such great minds, such brilliant minds for this type of stuff. So yep, that's my whole sentence. Abruptly ended.
Oh no, It's it's perfect. It ends just like your stream does on a regular basis. Just bye. But no, I echo that. It is great. Again, Twitch drops and Waste and Overlay, huge for the community. So thank you to the Eternal team. Thank you to the Twitch team. I know that's a collaborative effort, so my hat is off to you. I'm keeping it on because my hair is a mess. But the other thing, having the devs do more streams is going to be great. One, because in this day and age of computer games and things like that, people no longer get demos. You don't get a demo of a game. Like I used to get them in the mail when I was a kid.
Yep,
you
same.
get them with your PC magazines, or you borrow them from your friends, or you download them a lot of times. Like there was a demo that you would get. That doesn't happen. Now when you want to check a game out, you go on twitch.tv and you look for the greatest streamers. You look for the Platypus Kings, and you look for, unexpected results. The Eternal Podcast. You look for the Team Rankstar official channel.
Yeah, I was watching another game, and I was just sitting there watching for 20 minutes, and then I realized, hey, that's the Team Rankstar logo. I'm watching another Team Rankstar member. Huh.
Yeah.
How about that? Indazoa. Shout out to you.
Yep, good stream. I watched the same stream. But yeah, you go, the new people, when they want to check a game out, they don't get a demo. They talk to their friends some, but they go on Twitch and they watch somebody play, and that's how they make their decision. And that may not be the case for all people, but that is the case for the vast majority of people before they get into a game or before they spend money on a free-to-play game like this one. So having a dev stream, especially if they're going to be consistent or long running, so new players can come on, and one, they get to see a game being played by somebody who knows how to play it. Two, they get to answer, of course, they get questions answered from the people who literally wrote the cards, designed the system, worked on the interface, have this insight that regular streamers don't have. And three, they get access maybe to some cool stuff. Maybe one day a dev stream goes up and they say, hey, look, if you start a new account within 5 hours of this stream, you'll get an extra 10,000 gold or whatever. Like, they have some really cool stuff that they can do with streams as drops and with devs that it's a huge deal. And I cannot describe how excited I am for these advents and the news that keeps coming out of Direwolf on the things that they're doing. I hope anybody who's local to or close to Seattle around Labor Day weekend goes to Emerald City Comic Con, talks with the Direwolf team that is there or any of the representatives, tells them how much they enjoy the game, shows other people the game. And if Direwolf wants to send somebody to Atlanta to rep the game, this guy would love to do it. You can find me at MantedMan on Twitter. You can contact our team lead, Aphelion, and tell him what you need me to do. But if you see people from Direwolf Digital, either of those events, if you see them on Twitter, if you see them on a stream, tell them how much you love the game, because that's the only way this grows, is if they're motivated and they tell other people and you tell other people. If none of that happens, we sit here with Platypus King and Team Rankstar just winning every event without any new stuff happening. And what are you going to do?
Exactly. Hey, I mean, I'm ready for these Twitch drops to go live. I'm ready to have 50 fake people just sitting in my lobby, not talking and hanging out. That's fine. Road to partnership.
Collected in Twitch drops. Oh man. Oh, that is something I had to ask you about later. Don't let me forget to ask you about the Twitch thing.
Sure.
I want to do it on. I don't want to do it on the podcast, but I did have a question that I needed to get answered. But yeah, so we talked about the ETS results like we do every week that it's up. We talked about Second Blue's fantastic Gauntlet farming deck. We talked about Wyatt, not only the card but the amazing lore and the glorious avatar. Talked about the community and the Reddit post. More specifically, we talked about the community. One, the need to support within the community, but more importantly, in a lot of cases, to let the negative aspects of the community show through at the appropriate times. And we talked about Twitch drops, which are huge. Twitch drops and dev streams. Two big announcements out of Direwolf Digital this week.
Unrelated. Bobby Roode heel turn win.
I think possibly very soon because he's starting a new feud. So we'll see. We'll see.
See. We will see. Yeah, well, hey, yeah. I think that is it for us this week.
What was this show called again? I don't remember. What was this show called again?
It doesn't matter what it's... Oh, wait. Unexpected Results, the Eternal Podcast. Live every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, except for when it's not. You can find more information at eternalpodcast.com. Watch it live on twitch.tv/theplatypusking. Support me and give me all your money at patreon.com/theplatypusking. Find me on Twitter at Platypus Island. Hit up Mantid Man at Mantid Man on Twitter. And that's all she wrote. Any other closing comments for you?
No real closing comments. I don't need any of your money. Give it all to Platypus King. I do want your follows on Twitter. I do like to have conversations, but more importantly, I want to get a shout out really quick to. Let me find this guy's name. Damn it!
All right, what's this guy's name? Who we shouting out and why? I don't care about why.
Yeah.
Who we shouting out?
Yeah, we're shouting out, and I'm not going to give you a why, but I know they're a big fan of the podcast. I want to give a shout out to Chris Joyner. Fantastic playing against you, my friend. I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast, and I hope you continue to enjoy it.
Seen that name? All right, we'll see you all next week. Take it easy, folks.
Bye.